On the morning of July 12th, 2017, at the Eagle River Nature Center in Alaska, park camera number 4 recorded a woman in a gray fleece jacket leaning over the trail register. The timestamp, 10:24 a.m., matches a receipt later recovered from the visitor kiosk. Bottled water, apple slices, and fuel cans from the previous stop in Palmer. She wrote her name in neat block letters, pressed the pen too hard. A ranger later said she seemed focused but relaxed. Beyond her, spruce trees moved in slow wind, light fractured along wet branches. She paused, checked her handheld GPS, entered coordinates for the Crow Pass Trail, and stepped forward. That sound, the closing metal latch of the register, was the last verifiable audio before silence. By 1800 hours, the entry would mark not a starting point, but the documented origin of a federal disappearance case. Hook, 150 words. By July 12, 2017, 31-year-old geological surveyor Lena Whitcomb left her temporary Anchorage rental for Eagle River. Her field notebook lists soil sampling coordinates from prior projects. No indication of personal distress was found in messages sent between June 29th and July 11th. Her mother received a final text at 7:36 a.m. Heading out, reception may drop. Witness Tomas Weller, a trail guide logging early season hikers, verified her signature in the Crow Pass register. His statement, submitted July 15th, described her gear-tight, efficient, slightly formal. Meteorological records list temperature at 54 degrees, Fahrenheit, light rain, barometric pressure steady. Soundtrack of that morning, crunch of pea gravel, distant water runoff. Later, that same signature would become central evidence, her handwriting magnified under forensic light. What begins as an ordinary field day becomes data for an anomalous loss. At 12 minutes past noon, her GPS signal froze mid-trail. Chapter 1, 576 words. On July 13th, park monitoring personnel noted incomplete geolocation pings from device serial WN62H. The missing 2-hour interval raised no alert. Such interruptions are frequent along that valley's granite curvature. In recovered audio from her handheld recorder, the final note reads, "Ridge too quiet. Move faster." Her employer's field supervisor, Harriet Dunn, filed a routine absence notice on July 16th, classified return delayed, presumed camped. Dunn's subsequent interview transcript. She didn't cut corners. If she wasn't back, she couldn't get back. Forested moisture that week degraded trace potential. Fresh moss growth by day, 3 erased boot impressions. Rain systems moved through the valley, temperatures dropping to 48 degrees overnight. Search and rescue coordinators would later note that conditions were optimal for obscuration. Park rangers made 3 sweeps of the primary trail corridor, standard protocol for solo hikers overdue by 72 hours. Their report documented no unusual disturbance beyond normal wildlife activity. The case file contains 5 photographs of undisturbed trail junctions showing only damp earth and scattered pine needles. The Alaska State Troopers' preliminary assessment classified the delay as probable route deviation with communication equipment failure, a categorization applied to approximately 80% of overdue wilderness travelers who return within 96 hours. Dunn, however, noted an inconsistency. Lena carried redundant communications, satellite messenger, and radio. Double equipment failure would be statistically improbable. Her statement appears in the case file margin, initialed but not formally processed until day 5. Meanwhile, cellular records later recovered show Lena's device attempted connection at 12:15 p.m. on July 12th, a single ping registering low battery. Tower triangulation placed this final signal at coordinates matching the western slope of Crow Pass, where granite faces create natural signal barriers. The notebook recovered from her temporary housing contained methodical planning notes. Day 1, cover 16 miles to Crystal Lake, camp. Day 2, soil samples at coordinates listed, return. No deviation from established protocol appears in her documentation. Silence in recorded data rarely means catastrophe at first. Only later does absence cross into evidence. On day 4, a maintenance worker reported an untagged vehicle at the trailhead Lot C. Chapter 2, 572 words. By July 17th, the Alaska State Troopers received notification through family report, activating Search and Rescue Operation Number 21-7. Commander Lieutenant Reeves logged 61 personnel assignments, including K-9 units, deployed at dawn. Footage shows line searchers in rain-worn gear, rhythmic sweeps across drainage valleys. Radio excerpt, signal lost again at grid Charlie 8. Family liaison Megan Whitcomb, her sister, arrived the same day. Interview note, we thought maybe she broke a leg. Nobody thought anything else. SR guidelines require 3 concentric zones, immediate, extended, and probability radius. After 48 hours, radius extended beyond legal park boundaries. The immediate zone covered a 20 square mile area centered on her last known GPS coordinates. Extended zone included tributary valleys and alternative routes she might have taken if disoriented. The probability radius incorporated wilderness areas where a person might wander if experiencing elements of hypothermia or injury. Operational audio captured the methodical cadence of search. Team Alpha clear at waypoint 6. Negative visual, moving to Sector 7. Wind interference occasionally interrupted transmissions, static bursts marking gaps in human voice. Within the command tent, topographic maps covered folding tables, transparent overlays marking each team's progress. Colored pins tracked search patterns, creating a mosaic of methodical human movement across wilderness space. Rain drummed steadily on the canvas. Eagle River's early summer weather remained consistent, 48 to 56 degrees, intermittent rain, fog banks rolling through valleys at dawn and dusk. Visibility fluctuated between 20 and 100 meters depending on elevation and time of day. Search teams reported challenging but manageable conditions. Megan Whitcomb maintained a parallel documentation, a small spiral notebook containing every reported detail, cross-referenced with search grid locations. During interviews, she recounted, I thought if I recorded everything, I'd see something they missed. The notebook, later entered as evidence item 23, shows increasingly pressured handwriting as days progressed. Search dog handler Elise Komodo noted in her field report, canine behavior inconsistent. Strong initial interest followed by confusion at junction marker 73 suggests scent dispersal through water systems. On day 6, field operations recovered a single bootlace identified as consistent with Lena's equipment, located approximately 900 meters off the main trail. Laboratory analysis later confirmed the material match but found no biological material. When procedure expands, emotion contracts. Method replaces hope. At 1900 hours, an unregistered campsite was located. Tent intact, occupant absent. Even meticulous preparation collapses under anomaly. The trail log remains, an artifact of responsibility that failed to protect. Chapter 3, 576 words. Between July 18th and 20th, the Joint Task Unit combined state troopers, Army National Guard Helicopter Sierra 9, and volunteer teams. Thermal imaging returned distorted results due to geothermal vents along the river corridor. Recorder audio rotor noise, intermittent static, operator voice, negative visual. Investigator Sergeant Alton Cray noted in his report, no drag paths, no predation markers, campsite orderly. Family headquarters established at the Nature Center's West Room, maps pinned, fluorescent tags marking sectors. Megan maintained a log of incoming leads, time-stamped with every call received. The recurrence of grid coordinates 061 north, 08 east formed an inadvertent pattern, a circle around the Devil's Staircase ravine. Thermal imaging equipment, borrowed from the Coast Guard's Search and Rescue Division, registered 26 heat signatures within the expanded search perimeter. 24 were identified as wildlife. 2 remained unresolved due to brief detection duration. The operator's notes indicate possible human movement at tree line, coordinates unable to lock. Field teams recovered a total of 62 items of potential interest, clothing fragments, food wrappers, abandoned equipment. Each was photographed in situ, GPS marked, and transported to the mobile command center for analysis. Of these, 59 were eliminated as unrelated to Lena's disappearance. The remaining 3 items created a triangular pattern approximately 8 miles northwest of her last known position. A protein bar wrapper matching her supply brand, a torn map fragment with pencil markings consistent with her handwriting, and a single AAA battery of the type used in her headlamp. The National Guard crew executed 37 grid pattern flights over a 72-hour period, logging 83 flight hours. Fuel consumption records indicate particular concentration over the northern drainage basin, where steep terrain prevented ground team access. Audio transcripts contain repeated references to visibility limitations and shadow zones, where heat signatures could be masked by terrain features. Sergeant Cray's methodology emphasized systematic elimination rather than speculative tracking. His field journal, later submitted as case document, contains the notation: when evidence dispersal appears random but within confined parameters, consider human intervention. Weather conditions deteriorated on July 20th. Visibility dropped to 15 meters, wind gusts reached 40 miles per hour, and rain transitioned to sleet at higher elevations. Search operations continued under reduced capacity, with ground teams restricted to lower elevation routes and helicopter operations suspended. Medical staff on standby reported treating 6 search team members for exposure and minor injuries. Operational fatigue became evident in radio communications. Clipped responses, repeated requests for position clarification, extended silences between check-ins. Orderly absence implies intervention. Disorder signals natural loss. Her sight was too neat. During aerial survey at 1420, a red fabric signal was observed and vanished under fog. Chapter 4, 648 words. Reports emerged along the Crow Creek mining access. A hiker resembling Lena seen near mile marker 82. Investigation validated the individual as a tourist from Oregon. Forensic note: cell data tower ping analysis, confirmed inactive since July 12th, 12:15 p.m. The family released a formal statement requesting continued search funding. She's disciplined, her father's note read, not reckless. In the mobile command unit, Sergeant Cray turned over each clue under fluorescent light, muttering, "Patterns break only when external force." The environment resisted progress. Dense alder thickets, slopes of meltwater run. Radio chatter chronicled fatigue in short exchanges. Copy, moving upslope. Visibility 5 meters. No trace. The reported sighting came from a recreational gold panner who contacted authorities on July 21st. He described a woman in dark jacket moving quickly along the ridge line at approximately 7:30 a.m. Response teams redirected to the mining access road within 40 minutes of the report, establishing a secondary command post at Mile marker 79. Investigation revealed 13 individuals on permitted activities in that sector, including the Oregon tourist, whose appearance and equipment closely resembled Lena's. Photographic comparison confirmed the misidentification. The tourist, Rebecca Haynes, provided her complete itinerary and trail photographs, which were cross-referenced against timeline markers. During this verification process, 3 additional unconfirmed sightings were reported, each subsequently disproven through similar methodology. Cray documented a pattern of confirmation bias triggering false positives as public awareness of the case increased. Meanwhile, forensic analysis of Lena's recovered field notebook revealed indentations on blank pages, pressure transfers from notes written on now missing pages. Digital enhancement exposed partial coordinates, and the notation unusual structure visible from ridge. No corresponding structure appeared on topographic maps of the area. The mobile command center's atmosphere shifted as search days accumulated. Wall charts tracking probability zones showed coverage approaching 98% of accessible terrain. Statistical models generated by the Alaska Mountain Rescue Group indicated that survival probability without shelter had dropped below 30% given recorded weather conditions. Megan Whitcomb's daily routines became ritualized. Morning briefings, afternoon field participation with experienced guides, evening documentation of the day's findings. Her voice recorder captured a moment of quiet desperation. Day 8. I keep thinking about how she checks her equipment 3 times before any trip. She wouldn't just disappear. The volunteer search coordinator, retired park ranger Thomas Ellison, maintained records of the civilian effort running parallel to official operations. His documentation indicates 117 individuals participated, covering approximately 42 miles of secondary trails and drainage routes. Temperature logs show overnight lows reaching 39 degrees with persistent precipitation. As search narratives repeat, empathy erodes into routine. On day 7, a rescue dog fixated on scent along an abandoned game trail leading south. Chapter 5, 645 words. July 19th evening. Team Beta located Lena's day pack at elevation 2,600 feet, coordinates matching prior probability line. Inside were maps, traced in pencil, one edge torn, water filter used once, protein bar wrappers, and a small spiral notebook. Entries halt at noon July 12th. Lab analysis detected microscopic ash residue. Investigator Cray's field memo. Sample char oxidized, possibly campfire burned after departure. The site perimeter matched shelter style, inconsistent with her known routine. Forensic anthropologist Dr. Imani Okoro, consulted for burn pattern identification, stated, "It wasn't solo survival behavior. Someone wanted signaling to look random." The discovery location sat approximately 4 miles southeast of her last GPS transmission, a directional deviation from her documented route plan. Terrain features include a small clearing surrounded by dense spruce growth, with limited sight lines to surrounding ridges. Team Beta leader Karen Schultz described the site as deliberately secluded, not where anyone would naturally stop. The daypack's condition showed minimal exposure damage, suggesting it had not been in place for the full 7-day period. Moisture patterns on the fabric indicated recent movement from a protected location to its discovery position. Interior contents remained largely dry despite persistent rainfall. Forensic processing revealed multiple fingerprint patterns, Lena's primary set overlaid by unidentified partial prints classified as recent disturbance. The spiral notebook contained soil composition notes consistent with her research parameters, abruptly ending mid-sentence. Granite fragmentation indicates recent. The ash residue, collected from both the exterior fabric and interior compartments, contained chemical markers inconsistent with standard campfire composition. Laboratory analysis identified accelerant traces typically associated with emergency signal flares. The burn pattern suggested controlled application rather than accidental contact. Dr. Okoro's full assessment, filed July 22nd, indicated methodical staging. The distribution of materials suggests intentional dispersal mimicking abandonment rather than actual use patterns. Items appear placed rather than dropped or utilized. Her report highlighted unnatural spacing between equipment items, mathematical regularity, inconsistent with either panic or injury scenarios. Search team audio captures the moment of discovery, a brief silence, followed by restrained professional response. Command, this is Beta. We have confirmed equipment match at coordinates 847 North 52 East. Request forensic team, priority 1. As the site was secured for evidence processing, canine units continued working outward in concentric circles. Handler reports note, conflicting scent trails leading in multiple directions, suggesting deliberate scent dispersal techniques often used to confuse tracking dogs. Weather conditions during processing remained challenging. Intermittent rain, temperature 43 degrees, wind from the northeast at 12 miles per hour. Field processing required portable shelters to preserve trace evidence from environmental contamination. The line between survival and manipulation blurs when evidence mimics routine. Along the same ridgeline, a surveillance trail cam captured motion at 2112. 2 figures, one carrying an object slung low. The search changed vocabulary, from missing to taken. Chapter 6, 649 words. August 2nd, 2017. 2 hunters registered a remote cabin usage form at Yentna River Outpost. Upon aerial reconnaissance, troopers identified an unlisted structure approximately 17 miles northwest of the search zone. Body camera footage, slow engine noise, rotor wash, stirring spruce needles, then a dull metallic latch slammed shut. Inside, food stores, generator cord stripped, a mattress with corner restraints. Forensic documentation lists 1 silver necklace engraved LW. Cray's field entry. Environment staged for occupation. Recent footprint 1 female, 1 male. DNA cross-match requested through FBI Anchorage office. Temperature reading 47 Fahrenheit. Silence except for wind through broken roofing. The hunters, brothers Carl and James Nettles, had discovered the cabin while tracking moose through dense forest approximately 6 miles beyond designated hunting zones. Their statement described a weird feeling, like someone was watching, before they located the structure partially concealed by downed trees and camouflage tarpaulin. Regulatory records showed no registered structure at those coordinates. Land management archives contained no historical reference to construction in that drainage basin. The cabin's architectural assessment indicated amateur construction within the past 5 to 7 years. Unfinished interior walls, salvaged materials, improvised electrical system powered by a modified vehicle alternator. Initial approach by law enforcement utilized helicopter insertion with a 6-person tactical team. Body camera footage shows methodical clearing procedures, room-by-room documentation, and evidence preservation protocols. The audio track contains minimal verbal communication. Professional silence punctuated by equipment sounds and the constant background of wind through damaged roofing. Interior documentation revealed a main room approximately 12 by 14 feet, a small attached storage area, and a crude bathroom facility. The space contained supplies sufficient for extended occupation, preserved food, water purification equipment, medical supplies, and multiple propane tanks. Field notes identified organization consistent with military or survival training background. The mattress positioned against the north wall showed evidence of prolonged use. Corner restraints, nylon rope modified with quick-release mechanisms, were photographed in situ before collection. Fiber analysis later matched the rope composition to fragments recovered from Lena's day pack. Blood evidence was minimal. 3 small stains on the floor, tested positive for human origin but provided insufficient material for complete DNA profiling. Forensic luminol application revealed cleaned blood residue along the eastern wall and door frame, suggesting methodical decontamination procedures. The silver necklace was recovered from beneath the floorboards near the main entrance, a location consistent with intentional concealment rather than accidental loss. Microscopic examination confirmed the engraved initials matched Lena's jewelry documented in family photographs. Soil samples collected from the cabin perimeter contained trace elements matching Lena's research samples, creating a geological connection between her work sites and the cabin location. This correlation was later described in FBI analytical reports as unlikely to occur through natural distribution. Discovery is never revelation, merely body-meeting data. Under the windowsill, investigators located GPS unit serial WN62H, power cell removed. Chapter 7, 599 words. Digital forensics later retrieved 2 voice memo files reconstructed from that GPS chip. First contained ambient sound, creaking boards, restrained breathing. Second, a male voice near whisper level. Don't move when they fly overhead. FBI behavioral analyst Dr. Kendra Voigt's report, indicators of coercive control over prolonged confinement, duration undetermined. In the seized cabin, 1 notebook coded with shorthand numbers indicated multiple entries referencing timberline locations across state parks. Cross-reference through cold case units linked these to unsolved disappearances from 1998 through 2015. The voice memo recovery required specialized equipment from the FBI's Digital Evidence Laboratory. Memory degradation from power cell removal had corrupted standard file structures, necessitating bit-by-bit reconstruction. Technical notes describe deliberate attempt to erase through power starvation rather than standard deletion. The first recovered audio file contained 28 seconds of ambient recording, rhythmic creaking consistent with weight shifting on wooden floorboards, background wind noise through structural gaps, and what the audio technician's report classified as controlled breathing pattern indicative of stress response. The second file, time-stamped July 14th at 16:42, contained the male voice instruction followed by 11 seconds of silence, then movement sounds consistent with someone changing position on a hard surface. Voice pattern analysis indicated male subject, approximate age 40 to 60, regional accent consistent with Pacific Northwest or Western Canadian dialect. Dr. Voigt's behavioral assessment focused on linguistic and environmental cues, suggesting captivity protocols. The tone and phrasing indicate established rules rather than first-time instruction. The reference to aerial detection suggests awareness of search operations and preparation for evasion. The notebook recovered from a hidden compartment beneath the cabin's food storage contained what initially appeared to be supply inventory, columns of numbers with minimal text notation. Cryptanalysis revealed a simple substitution cipher translating to specific wilderness locations, dates, and duration periods. The earliest entry dated to May 1998, with the most recent from September 2015. Cold Case Review identified correlations with 7 unsolved disappearances from Alaska wilderness areas during that time frame. In each case, hikers or outdoor recreationists had vanished from established trails with minimal evidence recovery. 4 cases had been classified as probable wildlife encounters, 3 remained open as unexplained disappearances. 2 sets of fingerprints were recovered from the notebook. One partial set matched to Lena Whitcomb, suggesting forced interaction with the document. The second set, more prevalent throughout the pages, remained unidentified in initial database searches. Communications retrieved from the cabin's solar charging station revealed attempts to monitor emergency frequencies used by search operations. A modified scanner had been programmed to specific channels used by Alaska State Troopers and rescue coordination. What vanishes individually accumulates collectively in quiet archives. Fingerprint partials confirmed to Marcus Lee Hill, previously suspect in a 1999 assault near Talkeetna, listed deceased since 2013. Chapter 8, 601 words. Ground search expanded downstream following discovery. On August 9th, a small structure adjacent to the riverbank revealed subterranean containment, depth 2 meters, chamber of corrugated aluminum. Items recovered: clothing fragments, nylon rope, notebook pages describing sequence trials. Structural analysis: access hatch bolted from inside. DNA trace corresponded to Lena Whitcomb and 2 unidentified females. In adjacent ravine, skeletal remains, later confirmed as historic case Julie Harmon, missing since 2008. Media blackout ordered until identification confirmed. Sound captured on body cam, steady dripping, officer breathing tight. The secondary structure was located approximately 400 meters downstream from the cabin, concealed beneath an apparently natural formation of fallen logs and river debris. Detection occurred only after cadaver dogs indicated interest in the area during expanded perimeter search. Initial approach revealed no visible entrance. The access point was discovered only after comprehensive ground-penetrating radar identified subsurface anomalies. Excavation revealed a hydraulically assisted hatch mechanism camouflaged with soil and vegetation. The subterranean chamber measured approximately 8 feet by 10 feet, with a ceiling height of 6 feet 4 inches. Construction utilized corrugated aluminum sheets reinforced with pressure-treated lumber, materials consistent with those found at the cabin site, but showing greater environmental adaptation. Technical assessment suggested progressive improvement in concealment techniques between the 2 structures. Recovered clothing fragments included 3 distinct sets. 1 confirmed as matching items from Lena's documented equipment list, 2 others of unknown origin. Fiber degradation analysis suggested environmental exposure ranging from 2 to 9 years, creating a timeline consistent with the notebook entries. The nylon rope samples matched the composition of restraints found at the cabin but showed more sophisticated knotting techniques. Wear patterns indicated repeated application and removal, according to forensic textile examination. Notebook pages, protected inside a waterproof container, contained methodical entries labeled sequence trials with dates, duration periods, and coded result notations. Handwriting analysis matched these to the cabin notebook author. Content suggested systematic experimentation with confinement conditions, including food restriction, sensory manipulation, and movement limitations. The unusual bolting configuration, designed to secure from interior rather than exterior, created significant procedural questions. Engineering assessment concluded the mechanism could be operated from either side, but showed predominant wear patterns consistent with interior operation. DNA evidence was recovered from multiple surfaces within the chamber. Primary samples matched Lena Whitcomb's profile. 2 additional female DNA profiles were identified, but initially returned no database matches. One was later linked to Julie Harmon through familial DNA comparison. The skeletal remains were discovered during expanded search operations in a ravine approximately 600 meters from the subterranean chamber. Initial field assessment by forensic anthropologist Dr. Okoro indicated deliberate placement rather than natural deposition based on position and surrounding soil disturbance patterns. Recovery occurred under full forensic protocols with grid documentation and three-dimensional scanning before removal. Identification through dental records confirmed the remains as Julie Harmon, age 26, reported missing during a solo hiking trip in August 2008. Case files note her disappearance had been classified as probable wildlife encounter after initial search efforts yielded minimal evidence. Even the evidence of death can sound alive when recorded under metal ceilings. Inside the chamber, a time log scratched on wall ends midline. Third day of, then nothing. The missing became witnesses, but silence stayed the primary testimony. Chapter 9, 600 words. August 17th, 2017. Coordinated arrest conducted at a storage property registered to the deceased Marcus Leahill's brother, Alan L., age 52. No resistance. Inside his residence, topographic maps marked with colored string connecting multiple wilderness corridors. Interrogation transcript excerpt. Agent Voight. Why those places? Subject. Quiet keeps them clean. He was charged under Title 18 U.S.C. for unlawful imprisonment and homicide under special jurisdiction clauses. Forensic interviews indicated long-term psychological devolution, post-sibling death, gradual identity replacement. The arrest operation involved 26 personnel from multiple agencies, executing simultaneous warrants at 3 locations. The storage property, residential address in Palmer, and a workplace in Anchorage. Primary tactical entry occurred at 0500 hours. Body camera footage shows a pre-dawn approach, officers moving through light fog, condensation visible on equipment. Alan Leahill was located at the storage property, a converted industrial unit containing maintenance equipment and wilderness gear. He was taken into custody without incident. Interview notes indicate he appeared unsurprised and cooperative during initial contact. The resident search yielded the most significant evidence, a wall-sized topographic representation of Alaska wilderness areas with colored string creating a complex network between specific locations. Each intersection was marked with dates corresponding to periods of known disappearances. Technical analysis later identified 29 marked locations, 7 corresponding to confirmed missing persons cases, 22 unresolved. Digital device seizure recovered a laptop containing GPS data files with routes and waypoints matching the string map locations. File metadata showed regular updates and modifications over a 9-year period. Most recently accessed files contained satellite imagery of the Eagle River Nature Center area with timestamp July 10, 2017, 2 days before Lena's disappearance. The initial 48-hour interrogation, conducted under FBI protocols with behavioral analysis monitoring, produced limited verbal response. Case transcripts show long periods of silence punctuated by cryptic statements. The exchange between Agent Voight and the subject occurred at hour 37 after presentation of evidence photographs from the subterranean chamber. Psychological evaluation documented a pattern consistent with identity transference following his brother's reported death. Personal effects recovered from his residence included items belonging to Marcus Leahill, maintained in pristine condition despite the 4-year interval since his recorded death. Employment records indicated Allen had gradually adopted professional behaviors and skill sets previously associated with his brother. Forensic accounting traced purchases of construction materials matching those used in both the cabin and subterranean chamber. Transactions spanning 7 years, with irregular intervals suggesting opportunistic acquisition rather than planned construction phases. Medical examination revealed surgical scars consistent with self-performed procedures, including a facial alteration apparently intended to increase resemblance to his brother. The examining physician's report noted, "Patient has systematically modified appearance through amateur surgical intervention, suggesting profound identity dysphoria." Digital forensics recovered deleted files, indicating research into missing persons investigation procedures, search and rescue protocols, and wilderness survival techniques, creating a comprehensive knowledge base for both predation and evasion strategies. Some inherit silence-like property, refurbish it into their own ruin. During inventory, officers retrieved the original Crow Pass register, stolen from the trailhead. Chapter 10, 602 words. Between October and December 2017, hearings took place at Anchorage Federal Courthouse. Megan Whitcomb testified to early communications, recounting search nights under portable lighting. Courtroom ambiance described as frozen quiet. Transcript line, Megan: "She signed her name, that's all we know she got to do." Post-trauma specialists noted acute adjustment disorder among family members, compounded by exposure to evidence imagery. The recovered voice memo, the restrained breathing, was never played publicly. Court proceedings spanned 27 days of testimony, with 43 witnesses called by prosecution. The defendant waived right to trial by jury, opting for bench proceedings before federal judge Eleanor Kimball. Courtroom security was elevated to level 2 protocols based on public interest and case sensitivity. Weather during the trial period mirrored the search conditions: persistent low temperatures, early snow, and diminished daylight hours, creating what one observer called a continuation of the case environment. Inside fluorescent lighting cast the proceedings in clinical illumination that emphasized the institutional nature of justice processing. Megan Whitcomb's testimony occurred on day 11. Court records indicate she spoke for 4 hours and 17 minutes, methodically recounting the chronology from final communication through search operations to evidence recovery. Her composure broke only once, when presented with the trail register containing her sister's signature. Family impact statements were presented by Lena's parents, David and Catherine Whitcomb, her former academic advisor, Dr. Samuel Torres, and 2 colleagues from her geological survey team. Common themes emerged across their testimony: Lena's methodical approach to wilderness safety, her professional discipline, and the systematic destruction of family cohesion following her disappearance. Medical evidence was presented through forensic pathologist Dr. Regina Winters, who detailed findings from the examination of Julie Harmon's remains and extrapolated survival scenarios based on conditions documented at both confinement sites. Her testimony included statistical analyses of prolonged exposure, nutritional deprivation, and psychological impacts of isolation, creating a clinical framework for understanding the experience of captivity. Behavioral profiling expert testimony from Dr. Voigt established patterns of predatory preparation, victim selection criteria, and escalation behaviors observed through case evidence. Her analysis indicated a methodical progression from opportunistic encounters to planned acquisitions, with increasing sophistication in both capture and containment techniques. The defense case relied primarily on psychological evaluation, presenting evidence of diminished capacity through identity disorder and delusional processing. 3 psychiatric experts testified to the gradual personality dissolution following Marcus Lehill's death, describing Allen's behavior as identity absorption rather than conventional predatory pathology. Throughout proceedings, the defendant remained largely expressionless. Court observers noted minimal engagement with testimony and no visible reaction to evidence presentation. His only direct statement came during sentencing, a brief declaration: Marcus would have finished properly. Victim advocacy counselors maintained continuous presence, providing support for both the Whitcomb family and representatives from Julie Harmon's family. Their case notes documented progressive trauma processing as evidence details emerged in public record. Bureau procedures require separation between evidence and empathy. Families are not afforded that distance. Case file photograph. 73 shows Megan touching the GPS unit under evidence plastic, eyes unfocused. Chapter 11, 599 words. By March 2018, Federal Interagency Memorandum established new coordination protocol for remote environment abduction indicators. Training modules renamed LW Case Adaptations. Within the Alaska State Troopers Operations Room, a poster now lists 5 pre-screen conditions to flag non-environmental disappearances. A briefing voiceover notes, when data halts unnaturally, consider interference, not malfunction. Terrain footage lingers on frozen waterfalls near the old cabin site, wind scattering frost into sunlight. The protocol revisions emerged through a 12-agency working group tasked with identifying systemic vulnerabilities exposed by the case. The resulting 62-page document restructured wilderness missing persons response, establishing new classification triggers and accelerated resource deployment thresholds. Key modifications included reduced waiting periods for solo wilderness travelers, GPS signal pattern analysis for irregular termination, and mandatory cross-reference with historic disappearance locations. Implementation began with Alaska jurisdictions before expanding to all National Park Service and Forest Service regions. Training program development incorporated case study materials, redacted for sensitivity, but preserving operational learning points. Instructional design emphasized recognition of predatory opportunity structures in wilderness environments, how isolation, communication limitations, and terrain features create vulnerability patterns easily exploited. The pre-screening conditions poster, displayed in operations centers across Alaska, lists indicators that shift classification from environmental emergency to potential criminal investigation. Communication termination without degradation. Pattern equipment found in arranged rather than scattered distribution. Deviation from documented route without environmental cause. Multiple disappearances with geographic or seasonal correlation. Evidence of human presence not attributable to search operations. Statistical review conducted by the Department of Justice identified 29 cold cases requiring reassessment under the new protocols. Of these, 17 were reopened for active investigation based on pattern matching with the Whitcomb case elements. Resource allocation changed significantly. Helicopter assets previously reserved for confirmed emergencies became available for preliminary search phases when indicator thresholds were met. Database integration across jurisdictional boundaries created unified mapping of wilderness disappearances, revealing previously unrecognized pattern clusters. Field equipment specifications were updated to include tamper-evident GPS units with irregular transmission scheduling, preventing predictable signal patterns that could be studied for manipulation. Personal locator beacons issued to backcountry travelers now include motion detection and unauthorized deactivation alerts. Visitor center protocols at wilderness entry points enhance documentation requirements, creating more comprehensive departure records and expected return notifications. The trail register system was digitized with cloud backup, preventing physical removal or alteration of visitor logs. Park ranger staffing models shifted toward increased presence along remote trail corridors, particularly during shoulder seasons, when visitor numbers decrease but vulnerability increases due to reduced witness potential. The case aftermath extended beyond procedural changes. Psychological support resources for search and rescue personnel expanded to address cumulative trauma exposure. Operational debriefing protocols now include specific modules addressing cases with criminal rather than environmental outcomes. Systems change quietly. Every checkbox on new forms reshapes future rescues. Reinstalled at Crow Pass kiosk, a metal plaque. Please sign in before entering backcountry. Chapter 12, 288 words. In summer 2025, a documentary unit revisits the trail at midday. Repainted signs, new cameras, same mountains. A ranger flips through the latest registry. Thick pages, ink running from drizzle. Entry names now loop in cautious handwriting, a collective echo. At the bottom, a faded imprint of Lena Whitcomb's original signature, still visible under resin coating. Sound bed, river flow, faint wind, no voices. The documentary crew follows the same route recorded in the original case file, starting at the Nature Center parking area, proceeding through the visitor kiosk, and pausing at the trail register station. Their equipment captures the routine movements of current hikers against the backdrop of unchanged wilderness. New security features blend discreetly with the natural environment. Motion-activated cameras positioned at key junctions, emergency call boxes, disguised within trail marker posts, ranger patrol schedules randomized rather than predictable. These modifications remain largely invisible to casual observation. The trail register has evolved, now a weatherproof digital tablet with physical backup, housed in a reinforced casing. Each entry generates both an on-site record and remote data transmission. The ranger demonstrates the system's operation, explaining how departure and return confirmations create automated safety monitoring. Beneath the digital interface, the original paper register remains preserved under protective resin, a memorial and reminder. Lena's signature appears at the edge of the visible page, the pressure of her pen still evident in the fiber of the paper. Visitor behavior shows subtle adaptation. Hikers moving in closer proximity to others. Communications checks performed more visibly. Location sharing activated on devices. These small adjustments reflect a community that has absorbed the case history into its collective awareness. Every trailhead keeps two directions: entry toward wilderness and entry toward memory. The pen remains tethered to its chain, unwritten line waiting, ink dry, surface reflecting daylight like bone. Procedure ends, landscape continues, indifferent yet marked.